Have you ever considered the magnificence and beauty of life? Looked at your hand and realized the engineering perfection of it? Stared at nature and its complexity evoked a sense of awe in you? It almost feels like magic, right? Science, beginning with Darwin, affirms that you, me, and all of life are just a result of millions of random DNA mutations that occurred over billions of years. Given enough time, they state, life can evolve from bacteria to complex organisms like us just by aleatory changes in DNA. And this hypothesis has very critical implications. It means that our very existence is merely a result born from accidental inventions instead of deliberate ones. Life then cannot have an inherent purpose since it's a byproduct of natural selection and luck. And surely we might believe that there are countless experiments supporting this very important claim, but strangely enough, it has never been confirmed. But almost 100 years ago, an experiment that settled the matter took place, which, unfortunately, nobody's talking about. Before we dive into the experiment, we must first comprehend what we currently believe about how evolution works. In almost all popular literature, the standard explanation for evolution is that evolution is driven by random copying errors in DNA, which produce mutations of genes. These are said to occasionally change the creature in useful ways. These variations then increase the individual's ability to compete, survive, and reproduce. For example, in a world with just short-necked giraffes, a random mutation in DNA that causes one individual to develop a long neck would greatly benefit its survival. Since he can eat from short and tall trees as well, it is less probable that he will die of hunger. In that way, and over a long span of time, short-necked giraffes become extinct while the ones with longer necks become the standard. This is what's called natural selection. So if we have to write a formula to explain Darwinian evolution, it would go like this. Random mutations plus natural selection plus time equals evolution. Random meaning made without definitive aim, reason, or pattern. Mutation meaning a sudden change from the parent's type in one or more heritable characteristics, which is caused by a change in a gene or a chromosome. And natural selection is defined as a process that results in the survival and reproductive success of individuals or groups best adjusted to their environment. So we should expect that there are thousands of experiments demonstrating that random mutations over time can produce beneficial changes to the organism, right? And to my surprise, there are none. But there's one 100-year-old experiment that shed light on this critical issue. Let's explore it. In the 30s, Theodore Dobzhansky set out to prove the theory of evolution Darwin and other scientists suggested. If we have certain population of organisms and induce random mutations in their DNA, in time we should see a gradual improvement of the organism, and that's what Dobzhansky did. He induced mutations in fruit flies by exposing them to radiation. Fruit flies are perfect for an experiment like this because they breed fast, gestating in just 2 weeks. Dobzhansky could simulate the equivalent of 600 years of evolution in only 30. This hypothesis made total sense. Radiation reliably produces DNA copying errors, and if evolution is driven by that, and if natural selection kills off the inferior creatures and leaves the improved units, this should work, right? After 3 decades of effort, the experiment produced every kind of defect you can imagine, even mutant flies with legs growing out of their heads where antennas belong. But surprisingly, no beneficial changes like organs or adaptive systems, let alone new species, were created. Zero progress after 30 years. Zero. It could be possible that fruit flies have evolved to its best state, that's why every other mutation is worse than the original ones. But if that's true, why did other species have the same problem? Experiments of the same kind has been done with moths and all kinds of plants and animals, and the results were always the same: damaged mutants. If it was proved that random mutations in DNA are not responsible for evolution to happen, this dismantles a pretty big paradigm in biology and evolution. If the current theory of evolution is wrong, what could even produce it? And okay, one could argue that 30 years is not enough time, but other experiments show that just a few decades are more than enough to produce new species multiple times. In 1983, Barbara McClintock received the Nobel Prize in Medicine due to an amazing discovery made decades before. Just like the fruit fly experiment, she too used radiation, but this time to damage maize. This experiment was a little bit different from the fruit fly one. McClintock posed her plants an entirely different type of challenge. She discovered that radiation broke chromosomes and triggered editing systems in real time. Cells would reconstruct the damaged chromosome with another section of genetic material. Some of the plants she had, sensed the damage they could not repair, and activated previous Latin parts of the maize genome. They succeeded in patching damaged DNA with a new kind of genetic element, a transposable element. This movement is called transposition, and in this process plants, cells, and organisms can develop new futures. Basically, cells swap sections of their DNA when they need to adapt to the environment in order to survive. When bacteria are comfortable, some mutations cannot be found in over 10 billion cells, but when they are starving, the mutation frequency can go by a factor of 100,000-fold, and they develop new adaptations so they can survive. The fruit fly and the maize experiment isolated the question of can random mutations produce beneficial changes in the organism, and gives us a concrete and definitive answer. They cannot. New futures don't have to wait until a mutant organism is conceived, since cells are intelligent enough to realize that they need to modify something to keep surviving. These experiments show that evolutionary changes are not caused by random mutations and are not gradual. They are quick and goal-driven because they respond to specific threats. And what's outstanding here is that transposition is just one of the tools that organisms use to evolve and adapt, and none of them are random. None of them. One of the most important theories in modern science is breaking down. We have absolutely no idea how the cellular engineering capabilities originated and how cells make choices. But what we are sure of is that randomness cannot produce evolution, and the changes in DNA are not aleatory. The paradigm modern science and biology relies on, saying that life survives and evolves out of luck, is falling short. If organisms and cells are not just mechanisms but willful and, in a sense, conscious entities that are aware of the dangers in the environment and engineer the right solution to cope with it, there's a gap that physics and chemistry cannot explain. The universe seems to be not just a billboard table with balls bouncing around, but there's something far more mysterious going on here. Perhaps there's a designer behind it all, or maybe there are driving forces that nobody yet comprehends. And more importantly, what does that mean for us, self-aware beings? If we're not here out of luck and a few thousand random mutations, why do we exist? Could biology and science ever tell us the meaning of life, or even the existence of a creator? And obviously science cannot stop its search by explaining anything through God, but neither they can with randomness. We don't know the final answer, we may not even find one, but that must not stop us. Because if there's one thing I'm sure of, is that we must keep exploring, asking questions and discovering, even though that might contradict what we believe about reality and our own lives. Because that's what ultimately makes us human. Hello guys, it's Juan Cruz from Inerize. Thank you very much for watching. I want to give a huge thanks and credit to Perry Marshall, author of Evolution 2.0. Most if not all of what I spoke about here was inspired and sourced from this amazing book. If you're interested in learning more about the topic, I definitely recommend buying this book and reading it for yourself. It's eye-opening and very entertaining. I'll leave the link below. There is a lot of stuff coming on the way that I'm sure will blow your mind, so make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and give this video a thumbs up. If you haven't done so, check our Instagram. Also, we have a newsletter that keeps getting better and better, and there's stuff that doesn't get released in YouTube. Again, thanks for watching and see you soon.